We're live. Hello. I hope you're all well. If you're out there, folks, happy St. Patrick's Day. I generally am wearing a green Irish rugby hoodie. I'd like to pretend this is for St. Patrick's Day. The reality is, it's this and my Leinster rugby top are my two favorite hoodies. So I basically alternate between them on most days. I'm not that snappy a dresser. And oh my God, look at all the comments. Hello, lovely people. One of the comments is from me. That's weird. I'm assuming that's Wonder Wife. It's weird. You go, what am I? I'm talking to people. You're all very welcome. Hello. Thank you for coming. Happy St. Patrick's Day, as I said. Happy Firewater Blues Day. Happy Morgan C. Jones Appreciation Day. I haven't told him I'm going to call it that, but that's what we're called. We're going to have, this is officially an appreciation of Morgan C. Jones and his magnificent vocal cords. It's lovely to have you all here, folks. It's been an absolutely because we've never had a book on sort of pre-order before and all that, and it's been great because normally, you know, when you're on pre-order, I won't bore you with the details. Basically, Amazon, if you do everything in a short period of time, it pushes you up the charts. But we weren't bothered by that this time, and we still managed to become a #1 bestseller in the Irish crime and all that on Amazon and all the other charts on the UK, which we're genuinely stunned by. I can tell you, by the way, I'd looked before I came on. Over 8,000 people got the book today, which is pretty cool. I hope at least some of you were enjoying it. 8,000 people. We've already had 7,000 returns. People did not like that bit with the rabbit. I hope you're all well. Do say hello. Let's see who we've got in. Tell us where you're from as well, folks, as always. Hello from San Diego, California. Lovely. 8001. Thank you very much. Hello, Irene. Hello, Kathleen. Hello, Ian. Wilbur, Liz, Bernay, Tanya. What a wonderful name. Bernay, Tanya. That's a fabulous name. Craig, how are you? Lily Biff, Liz from Glasgow, how are you? Alberta, Canada. That's fantastic. It's always great to see. Oh, by the way, apparently I screwed up today with the timing because it's not 3 p.m. on the East Coast now. It's 4 p.m. because you've changed the clocks again. Does anyone else understand why we have that stuff anymore, the daylight savings thing? It's apparently supposed to be for farmers, and I've not even met a farmer who wants it anymore. Lafayette Podrick, nice bit of Gaeilge, fair play to you. North Wiltshire, lovely, and North Wales, sunny West Yorkshire. I'm gonna, David, you're not that far away, mate. It's definitely, if it's dark here, it's dark there. Don't pretend it isn't. Don't pretend you got this exotic lifestyle. Ipswich, Manchester, New Hampshire. Hey, Steve, how are you? It's wonderful to have you all here. Just to explain how this evening's going to work, if you've not been in one of these before, it's the same general nonsense. What we do is, I do this bit for a bit where it's, to be honest, I'm quite proud of myself because this time I didn't spend the first 2 minutes trying to figure out if it was on or not. So we're already 2 minutes ahead tonight, folks. So yeah, I'm going to be answering any questions you have for me. Fire them there into the comments, and Wonder Wife will pick them out and stick them in the old the chat line to me. And then as well, if you have any questions for the wonderful Morgan C. Jones about obviously his vocal work on the books, or indeed his fine acting career in general. He's in, I think we shared the trailer for you for the I'm going to get the names wrong now. The Harry Wilde TV series, which looks really good, which that's very exciting. That's out next month. And he's also, I was just looking at the trailer for, because I mentioned this before, but I'm a wuss. Everyone assumes I like horror movies because I wrote The Stranger Times, and people actually describe The Stranger Times, by the way, as a book with horror in it. And I was genuinely shocked because I don't watch horror stuff. I don't like horror stuff. So I'm amazed anybody thought it was. I just think it's paranormal. But yeah, there's a cracking. We'll talk about it later on. But I was just looking at the. I might have to break my rule about no horror movies because I was looking at the feature film Boys from County Hell, which is an Irish horror movie that Morgan is basically. It's in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler. He's clearly a vampire in it, and it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to ask him about being a vampire as well, because if you're going to be in a vampire film, you want to be the vampire. Nobody wants to be the guys getting just chased by the vampire. That's rubbish. Simon White, I believe it's based in Northern Ireland, that film, by the way, as well. Builders hate it. I don't know what that references to, although builders hate a lot of things. I was just talking about from Cabra, Dublin, but living in Reading, UK. I went to school in Cabra, and I spent many years in Reading doing London Irish, so I'm sure we've met. You must be a London Irish fan, I'm assuming. Suli, only a wuss would find it horror. But I am a wuss as well. Well documented. I've not seen. I've never seen The Exorcist. I've never seen, what's the Damien one with the kid? I've seen bits of that. There's a thing, actually, they did a sort of spoof thing years ago on, someone will remember the name of this. It's a British TV Halloween thing. It's kind of a legendary thing. They basically did this Halloween night spoof with all these normal TV presenters. And it was basically this sort of thing with a poltergeist in it and stuff. And they never repeated it again because it was linked. They claimed it was linked to somebody committing suicide, which I think was probably just urban myth. But it was one of these things that the press got hold of. But there's this thing. It looks quite cheesy. I can't remember the name of it now. The Omen. Thank you. That was the one I haven't seen. But genuinely, my old housemate is a guy called Gary Delaney, who's a brilliant stand-up comedian. If you're a fan of British comedy, you might know him. But he's a massive horror fan. And I'm sort of terrified of him. Elaine, by the way, genuinely loves horror films as well. We've actually had it where myself and Gary's wife, Sarah, me and her have gone to see a film. And then Elaine and Gary have gone to see another film in the cinema. And then we've met up afterwards because myself and Sarah don't want to go see the scary stuff. Ghost Watch. Thank you, Andy. That was it. Yeah, a thing called Ghost Watch. And it starts off very cheesy when you have kind of like mainstream TV presenters. And you just think, oh, this isn't going to be scary. I'm fine. Because he told me about it, I decided to watch it. We watched it. We lived in Lemling Spa years ago. Let me put it this way. I watched that with Gary. I was so scared. I went up to bed and I woke Elaine up at 4 a.m. because I was too scared to be on my own. Elaine, bless her, this is the greatest thing you can say how incredible my wife is. She didn't mind. Like, I was a big soft idiot who got scared by a TV program, woke her up at 4 a.m, and she was okay with it. I mean, genuinely miraculous that woman has married me. So anyway, it's lovely to have you all here. I think we can probably crack on. As always, by the way, thank you for all of you who bought the books and stuff. The feedback's generally been lovely. I know some people have already been kind enough to stick reviews up. There's been some crackers on Audible, as there should be, for Morgan's brilliant thing. If you get a chance, always bung up a review if you can. We always appreciate it. More importantly, we appreciate you, continue to support us, coming to see us. Thank you very much. And yes, I hope you are all well. Without further ado, first off, Wonder Wife, pop yourself on the screen, love, because people demand to see you. That's the... there she is. Do you remember me waking you up at 4 o'clock in the morning after work?
Yeah, I do. Very, very well.
I am genuinely terrified of all those things, aren't I? I don't like watching anything scary near going to bed or anything because I've got too fertile an imagination.
As you said to me only the night before last, do you mind if we don't watch this? Because it might not be good to watch before bed. So yeah.
Yes, because I have very vivid dreams, whereas Elaine, bless her, has you have like the weirdest. You mainly have admin dreams where you're doing admin.
Oh. It's not spreadsheets. It's obviously like, you know, some kind of latent desire to spend my time doing more Excel.
Yeah, she's literally her dreams are that boring. She's told me her dreams, and I've like going, I've really fallen asleep halfway through her recounting the dream because it's like, and then I had to go and do some filing, and then I had to figure out what we were gonna do because we hadn't got enough chairs. Like, this is incredible. Whereas I'm like, I'm terrified because the vampires and stuff. But Elaine is gorgeous. She is indeed. Right, so I think what we're going to do is you're going to technically interview me, but you'll do it by the text because you don't like being on the screen. So if you pop in first few questions, and I shall make sure I can read them. And oh, by the way, I said any questions, folks, just bung them in the comments. Just make sure Elaine sees them. So if she doesn't acknowledge it, do stick it in again, as it were, Mrs. So she's going to pop in the first question now, and then we're going to I'll do a few of these, and then we'll bring on Morgan for a chat because that's the main meat and potatoes. I'm very much the starter. First question, Steve, always on the ball, Spicer. Steve, he's a regular question answer. God love him. Ask her. When you introduced Smithy, you said that you were nervous that you portrayed him correctly. I did, well remembered. Did you talk to anyone about Rosie Flint while you were building her character? Oh, excellent question. Thank you as always, Steve. Rosie is in the new book, by the way. This is no spoilers. You meet her quite early on. It's an interesting thing because while it's never sort of specified in the book, she is sort of on the spectrum somewhere, I think is the correct way of putting it. And to be honest, I I never wanted to kind of explain exactly what was going on there, because she's a very intelligent person. I know, I mean, we all do. It's a very common thing now. But I do know some incredibly smart people. There's actually quite a few comedians who will actually say themselves they're on the spectrum. They have been quite a few sort of. It's a certain kind of mind, weirdly, that that can pick away at a comedic idea, like real joke tellers in particular, that they kind of have that mind. And she is sort of written like that. So yeah, we did. We kind of I sort of wrote her from what I knew. And then I'm very lucky because Elaine reads everything first, and she gave me a couple of notes on that because she's got very good sense on those things. And then my editor, Scott, also came in. And then between all of us, hopefully we got it generally right. Because I said with Smithy and stuff before, I think with those things, you just have to be, I think as long as you sort of use common sense, generally, it's been okay. We've never had any bad feedback about Smithy. As I said before, it's been universally popular. Which has been fantastic for that. So I think the biggest thing with any of these things is if there's something like that with a character, you always have to remember as a writer that that's just one thing about them. And if you make that them, then that's bad writing. It's a facet of their personality, but it's never the whole of anybody, as indeed, of course, it is in real life, as we all know. So I think that's probably the rule of thumb is you always make sure there's a lot more going on than just that one thing. Otherwise, you're using it as a gimmick. But thanks for the question. Elaine, you want to fire away with the next question? I'm just going to turn off the heater because I'm overheating. I should say I have got my rum and caffeine-free diet Coke because I'm hoping for a good night's sleep. Oh, thanks, by the way. I know we got loads of emails. I should have said this because myself and Elaine, if anyone didn't see it, had COVID last week. And I'm pleased to say we're sort of both generally all right now. I'll tell you this because we were gone for the week. We were knocked out. Like we were literally sitting on the sofa having negotiations like, if you will feed the dogs tonight, I will feed the dogs in the morning. So we sort of lost the whole week, and then I've been busy. I'd say I went for a walk today with Dylan and I came back and I was like, oh God, it still hangs around a bit. So yeah, do be careful if you're out there, folks. You know, get yourself vaxxed and all that without getting into things people get upset about. Next question. Jerry looks nothing like Mozart and Hassett Riley. I don't know why you boys decided to come up with your own names, but I am loving it. Everyone needs to come up with their own name now. How many details do you put on the cards on the wall? Are they a basic plot layout or a particular character outline? Generally, actually, I can't really sort of show you the cards, but they're actually usually not that much detail, actually. Just looking at the ones now, I'm basically got the Stranger Times book 3 up here. It's more just the sort of where it is and what's happening, who's involved, and the color is always who the main character is. So yeah, it's usually about that. Not that much. It's not character stuff and all. It's just something you kind of develop when you're writing it. But it's very much, it's kind of moving the pieces around the board. It's like stage directions, if you like. You know where all the characters are, where the pieces on the board. That's basically what the cards are, and then everything else comes out with that. And then the next bit is, you managed to write pathos well and even made me cry from time to time. Thank you very much. Do you have a card with make reader cry here written on it? No, I should get one though. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's a very good question because I've always been asked about the comedy. But yeah, I mean, the pathos thing is obviously very important because you need the kind of balance. It needs to mean something, I think, to the characters. I think when it comes to writing that, I think the main thing is with that. Honestly, I'd say the biggest thing is you have to have established a character before that point. Like, if you want people to genuinely feel something in a scene, they have to care about the characters. Like one of my favorite scenes, and it was quite hard to write, and you talk about being quite emotional. There's this scene in chapter near the end of The Day That Never Comes when Bridget gets thrown into a dark cell and Bunny's in there and she finds him. But she basically figures out he's in a lot of trouble and he's been beaten up quite badly. And the bit that got me in that was with him basically saying, if someone comes in, you sit back and let me do it and stuff. And he basically still wants to put himself in front of somebody else. And that really got me. But I think when I was writing it, but I think the reason that works is because by that point you care about Bunny already and you care about Bridget. And the relationship moment there is quite special. So I think with these things, I think when films and stuff go wrong, I think when they're trying, you can, and you'd know it yourself, whatever, but not being a writer, when you watch something, if you feel like someone's trying to get an emotional reaction from you that you don't feel like they've earned, that generally means that something's gone wrong in the writing or they've cut out too much or something else. But excellent question. Oh, there was another one actually. So just that someone asked about what's the difference between writing one of the Bunny books and one of the Stranger Times books, which is an excellent question as well. I can't remember who put that in. But I'd say the Stranger Times books generally are a bit more complicated because there's probably more people involved. There's more going on. I mean, that can be that way sometimes in some of the Bunny books. Like Last Orders, for example, was very complicated because it had to tie up quite a few things. I can remember spending a long time planning that out. And I can remember The Quiet Man, book 3, McGarry Stateside, because there was a lot going on there. Thinking back, I remember thinking back last night because I was thinking about the next McGarry Stateside book last night, just because I randomly do sort of start planning ahead for various different things. And I was thinking through it and I thought, God, there's an awful lot of moving parts there. And a lot of parts I really enjoyed with Las Vegas and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. They're generally sort of similar things. It's a lot easier to write something when you've already established the characters in your head. Like, never mind the audience knowing them, which is obviously important. But when I know them, like, for example, now, I'm going to talk about this with Morgan because he's done so many books with Bunny in them. But I find Bunny, if I just give him a scene, he rolls because he's in my head. And, you know, I think like Bunny even when I shouldn't be. So it's very easy. Well, thank you for the question. Nick, another one from Nikki. It's great to see Decky again. He's really coming into his own. Surely there's potential for him to have his own book. Well, I don't know if he'd ever have his own book. I can tell you there's going to be a book that will feature him quite a lot, but him as an adult. I mean, I think that's going to be the next book where I think I've said this before, where one of the next things coming up, I'm not sure when it'll be in the pipeline exactly, is basically a follow-up to the final game, which is featuring everybody except Bunny, effectively, which is, you know, Paul and Bridget and stuff, and the agency, because I had a lot of fun writing the final game. And I think I'm going to write, there's another book, and that's going to feature Decky a hell of a lot. Weirdly, it was inspired by a line I wrote. It sounds so obnoxious. But there was basically a line about what Decky would be when he grew up. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, I wonder what Decky would be when he grew up. Because, you know, he's referred to in the final game and stuff. But he's not done much with his life. And I will say, I find the perfect job for Decky. Decky finds this thing that he ends up becoming very good at, and he basically becomes a celebrity almost, because he's a man with a lot of opinions. As always, as he was as a kid, that same trait comes back, and it's sort of what that would be in his future life. And it just became a fun thing to mess around with in my head, and it sort of became a plot of the book I'm hopefully going to be writing some point later on this year. So Decky as an adult, we will get quite a lot of him, but not an entire book because that's probably a bit too much. Sister Irene, hello, Sister Irene. I have learned how to say Taoiseach, but the S word after Garda just makes a squishy noise in my head when I read it. Irish pronunciation needed, please. First off, Taoiseach, that's a good one. If you get that, she spells it T-T-E shock S-H-O-C-K, which is actually bang on. The Taoiseach, by the way, is the Irish Prime Minister, for anyone who doesn't know. It's currently, by the way, in Washington for the big photo opportunity when you're the Irish leader. They go to Washington with the American president. It's the big thing for Paddy's Day, except he's managed to get COVID while he's in America. So they're going to do it on a video link. So he's not having a good Paddy's Day. But to go back to your initial question, the S word after Garda, it is Síochána. That's it. Garda Síochána. The Garda Síochána is the word in itself. By the way, there is one thing in the books, I don't know if I've ever said this before, but one of the biggest things I don't do in the book would be more realistic. There's an Irish word for inspector. They actually use the Irish word in the Guards for inspector. And we tried to use it in the earlier books because I knew you were supposed to. And it was one of these things where it just became really unwieldy for people that didn't understand it. So if you're looking for an obvious error in the books, that's one. They shouldn't be saying detective inspector and stuff like that, but they do. Tim Burrows' question, any chance of any more nuns? Absolutely. There will be the next McGarry Stateside book, the sisters are going to feature in heavily. And I can say after that, I don't know when, I don't know where, but I would imagine at some point the sisters will get their own spin-off because they are such good fun to write. So yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll crack through a few more of these, then we'll get Morgan on. Owen Comerford, your dialogue is so engaging and funny. Thank you very much. When you are channeling a character, how much of that just flows versus how much is write and rewrite until it makes you or Wonder Wife laugh? Honestly, I don't I wouldn't say I don't rewrite dialogue, but basically I write it, and then I sort of the next day I read what I wrote the day before, so I'll tweak it a bit then. And if something occurs to me, I'll change it. But honestly, a lot of time when something occurs to me, I change it. Then I read a few more lines and realize I should have left it the way it was and go back and think. So it kind of dialogue is always just sort of flows, really. Yeah, because I think it's the thing. I'm probably it's the best part of my writing. I think is really the dialogue. It's honestly something that kind of flows fairly naturally. I don't spend a lot of time reworking it and stuff. When we're rewriting stuff, it's never that kind of thing. It's you're always maybe figuring out stuff that you figure when you're writing a book. You have things like you get to chapter 34 and you go, oh, I need something here, and I need for it to work. It needs to have been in chapter 12, and that's what a big part of the cards on the board is. Me sticking up post-its, going rewrite and put this in here and this in here and stuff. So that's the kind of rewriting I do. But dialogue is generally stays the same most of the time, unless there's something I need to put in for story reasons. But thank you for the question. Chris, are there any characters from the trilogy that you would like to have their own book story? Oh, geez. I mean, yeah, there's loads of... I think I've already... Obviously, we've had the spin-offs already with the final game is effectively a spin-off from the trilogy where Bridget and Paul have their own spin-off. And then, obviously, Smithy and Diller have their own spin-off from the McGarry stateside. I mean, the sisters, that probably from the McGarry stateside, that sort of version of the sisters will spin off. Yeah, there's a few. I mean, the lawyer, I think there's a Kofi in he's in Dead Man's Sins, isn't he? Yes, Dead Man's Sins. Because someone mentioned during the week. I really enjoyed writing him, and I don't think he has his own spin-off, but it did strike me as an interesting character. And the one thing I will say with the Dublin books, it's weird where how I write the prequel books, which are obviously Angels in the Moonlight, Dead Man and stuff, is they're all set around 2000, which is weirdly when I left Ireland and moved to the UK. So it's quite easy for me to write just because I have to remember, if I have to think about, mobile phones and stuff is always a big one. Was there mobile phones there and stuff? And when was the euro come in and stuff? And all I have to remember is what were things like when I still lived in Ireland, and then just keep them the same like that. So yeah, those characters, I don't know what the question was, but yeah, the spin-off thing, yeah, I mean, there's a few sort of characters. I think it's more. I don't know if they spin off their own books, but they definitely want to reappear in other books. Kofi's one of them and stuff. I mean, the big one, of course, is the Chief Inspector Ferguson. I love writing him, and even when I came up with the idea for this book, I went, "Oh, I can use Ferguson again," and that was a big part of the drive. Was it's just he's great fun. And he doesn't leave his office most of the time, but it still ends up being he's just this big character who's you sort of love him, but is also can be horrible to people, which is just great. Any crossover fully with Strange Times of Bunny? No, just because the world's too confused. Like we have sort of, I said before, there's the thing where Phil Ellis appears briefly in the Stranger Times. There'll be a couple. I think I even put something else in somewhere else in some book. I can't remember what I was writing. It might be in the next Stranger Times book. There's a weird little reference, but it is just something that literally me and a couple of weird people will remember, but nobody else will. See, in both personality and productivity, you come across as probably the worst person in the world to answer this. Always a good start to a question. But do you have any thoughts on imposter syndrome? Do you ever feel, and if so, how do you feel? How do you deal with it? Honestly, my take on imposter syndrome, like everybody has it. It's a natural thing. I had it much worse as a stand-up, and I had it much worse as a TV writer, probably in certain ways. Certain gigs I was on in particular were just brutal. So with the books and stuff, I'm generally much better with it. I think it's because I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. And honestly, just because people have been so nice about the books, you kind of think, look, I'm probably not going to be, I may not be the biggest seller in the world, but I'm very lucky where in this day and age, you don't have to be. What you have to do is find your audience. And I've been very lucky that I've found my audience. And when I'm writing stuff, I kind of feel like I've always got that thing where, I think, well, people are waiting for this. Ever since the first book, I was like, oh, people are looking forward to this. And that's always makes it a lot easier to keep going because, but you always have moments of doubt and stuff. But to be honest, the lucky thing is I've written 13 books now. So you kind of go, yeah, well, this is a part of the process. And like I'll say to Elaine, say, oh, this isn't the thing. And you go, well, you always have these moments. You go, yeah, I suppose I do. And you kind of just sort of work your way through them, really. I mean, genuinely the hardest, the sort of most I had difficulty in the last few months. Basically because my father passed away a few months ago. You might have noticed the dedication in the book, as weirdly did Morgan's, by the way, but passed away in a few hours, God rest them, the two of them. They both have illnesses for quite some time and stuff. But because of that, I didn't write for a couple of months because I didn't have the concentration. And I'll be honest, part of me was like, oh Jesus, when my focus going to come back? Have I lost the ability to think? And then last couple of weeks, I've basically been back writing again. And actually, weirdly, because I was ill last week, this week I've probably written more in this week than I've written in any week previously in my entire career, because the whole thing is sort of built up in my head, and then the floodgates have been opened, and I've just been rushing to get everything down. So yeah, I mean, the reality with these things is we all have stuff to go through, but imposter syndrome was one of these things where you just have to figure out a way of putting it to one side. I have this image weirdly I use where the Matrix film. Do you remember when the Keanu Reeves character gets woken up and they have to pull the lead out of the back of his head? I have that image. If I ever think about that, if I ever have negative thoughts and stuff like that, just do that and go, just disconnect it and focus on this. And that's where I go. But thank you for the question. And right, last. Oh, Shami McKenna, Laser Coaster Guy. Oh, Shami, before I go any further, sorry, because you've not put in the email yet. We had a couple of emails go out, and the reason is there was lots of business to tell about books and stuff. But the next email we have coming out next month, folks, Shami did this brilliant thing where he's basically engraved the covers of the first 4 Dublin Trilogy books onto slate coasters, and they're wonderful. They're the most. I was so chuffed when we got them. So I know I've emailed you about it, Shami, but we do want to put them on the thing and show to everyone properly when we've got a bit of space. But thank you very much. And how long is your average writing session? How do you deal with the days when it just doesn't flow? It varies wildly. As I said, this week I've literally been getting up at 6:30 in the morning, coming down and writing and stuff. I usually go 2 to 3 hours and then have a break. But I also dictate. So I literally have another machine sitting beside me that I use a Windows machine to dictate into. I've got used to doing that now. So I generally do 2 to 3 hours. But it's one of these things where it's flowing, it's great. When it's not flowing, you can kind of trick yourself in by doing like a 40-minute thing with the Pomodoro method and stuff like that. But then occasionally as well, to be honest, you just sort of go, it isn't happening today. And you do it tomorrow. And some nights then I'm here till 10 o'clock at night writing just because it's flowing or I want to get something done. So yeah, it's one of these things where I think you just have to kind of figure out your own way through these things, really. Maybe, and finally, Sandy, maybe this has been asked before, but is there any of your character in Bunny? Yes, Bunny's attitude to certain things. People, by the way, because I've written 2 books with blokes with fairly problematic relationships with alcohol. I'm pleased to say, by the way, I genuinely haven't. While I have a drink when I'm doing this, I weirdly don't drink for weeks on end. Then I'll go out to the pub and I'm sort of very much a social drinker. So there's things like that are very different, but there's certain things in Bunny's things, certain things that annoy Bunny very much. I have, as anybody should, frankly, I have a huge problem with violence against women and children. That's a core part of Bunny's belief system. That comes straight out of me. That's, I don't think that's any particularly big special thing. Yeah, there's certain things. Myself and Bunny are probably neither of us are exactly the snappiest dressers in the world. We're about a bit lackadaisical on that front. So there are definitely elements of his character, his personality. Weirdly, by the way, I don't know if I've ever said this because people always bring it up to me. I'm actually not a big hurling fan. People sort of assume I am. I'd happily watch a game of hurling, and I know it's a great sport, and I've got friends who are big into it. But I'm much more of a rugby and, frankly, the NFL are the 2 things I really like. People always assume I'm massive into hurling and GAA and football, and I enjoy them. But I guess being over here in the UK, maybe they're not as prominent in my head as they would be when I was back in Ireland. But definitely are elements. I think if that's everything, I think we should probably bring on our star guest. I think let me just check with Wonder Wife just quickly. Is there anything else I need to do, love? Yes, because you're all wonderful people. We're going to give away a prize. The next Bunny book you will receive before anyone else a signed copy of it. And as the competition, all you have to do is Wonder Wife's going to put her email address up on the screen. Oh, look at that! Look at that for and the 2 eyes. I mean, that's beautiful. She has 2 wonderful eyes, lovely eyes. I can't believe I just did that. But yes, the question, and it's a very simple. We're gonna have a question. So if you know the answer to this, and the question is, what is Decky's granddad's name? Don't put it in the comments because that gives it to everyone. Don't spoil it. So all you have to do is email Elaine, what is Decky's granddad's name? And then when we're finishing up, she will announce the winner. She'll pick one at random. I think this evening, possibly. So without further ado, I think we should bring on our star guest. My God, I'm already been chatting far too long. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Morgan C. Jones.
Hello, Caimh. How you doing?
You can't hear them, Morgan, but there's literally a all over the world for you right now. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, sir.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, although it's one of my least favorite days of the year, I have to be honest.
I'd say, to be honest, you and me have the same attitude to this. It's probably going to be disappointing for other people, but yeah, I'll be honest, Irish people, quite a lot of us find it a bit, it's a little bit, yeah, it's just, the people throwing up green beer in the streets and...
yeah. My particular bugbear is people saying Happy St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, I have explained that. Actually, weirdly, I think that's in one of the books, isn't it? There's a bit where he goes, it's St. Patrick's Day or it's Paddy's Day. It is never St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
I think Bunny explains that at some point. I can remember because I don't like I've gigged quite a lot on Paddy's Day over here. Because it's a good earner. The weirdest thing, by the way, is when you got stand-up gigs in Britain. And I've been where they've gone to great trouble to book an entire Irish bill. Yeah. And then I was out the MC, and I fell for this first time I was MCing a gig on Paddy's Day. And I've explained to every MC I've ever had, like the guy running the show, the compere, for anyone who doesn't know, and said, don't ask us any Irish people in. And every single time they did. And they always go, any Irish people in? And they all go, no. I'm like, and then the rest of all the English people just look around like, what are we doing here if they've not come in? We were told this was an Irish party. And you're like, yeah, no, Irish people have no interest in going to see Irish people talk on Paddy's Day.
It's kind of sick Irish revenge, yeah.
Yeah. But I can remember, because I don't go out in the beer for Paddy's Day delivery, but a few years ago, I was doing my university master's that I never finished. And I ended up just going out for drinks afterwards with the class. And I weirdly ended up in a pub in the middle of Manchester with all these goths in the big Paddy's Day hats. Like all these proper metalheads in the big Paddy's Day hats they got from somewhere. Bizarre. And I was quite drunk, but I can remember standing at a urinal and this massive goth in a Paddy's Day hat just came up and stood beside me. And I genuinely was so drunk, I just went, you disgust me. And when I left the room, I was like, oh, that's not cool. I shouldn't have done that to the guy.
He might have just thought you meant the general makeup thing.
Yeah, no, I was fine with all of that, but yeah, no, I must admit. Oh, we also do it with the London Irish had it where they had the St. Patrick's party, which is never on St. Patrick's Day, but it's basically they could fill a stadium with people turning up for that. But again, you had like a crowd of people, half of which were paying no interest in the rugby at all. But it paid a couple of players' salaries, so we just put up with it. But yeah. How are you, sir? Anyway, more importantly,
I'm good, thank you. I'm very good. I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you very much for asking me to be. It's very unusual to get it as a performer. This is a really weird one, but doing audiobooks, because it's kind of like doing radio plays, and it's kind of like doing films, and that you never ever really get any appreciation of what people are getting out of it. But it's really nice to be here. I'm reading very nice comments and hearing nice things is lovely. So
you should have a look on Audible. There's I say they're 99.9%, because I think you like just loving it. But there is that. Remember, you saw it because we're friends on Facebook, and I shared it on Facebook because I thought it was so funny. Where is a review with some guy going, do not buy this book. This is the worst Scottish accent I have ever heard.
Yeah. And to that person, I can only say Happy St. Patty's Day.
But it's genuinely amazing that you will get the odd person sort of say things like, yeah, this is not Scotland. And you go, it's the Dublin, like, there's several books. I've had people who's like read several books and sort of go, don't seem to understand where Dublin is. But yeah, no, it's amazing, because you've done 11 books now, which is, God, it's extraordinary. That's what in hours and stuff. That's got to be like 140 hours probably of audiobooks you record, plus all the short stories as well, of course, which I'm sure everyone here's probably here. God, it's a lot. I mean,
well, certainly in terms of finished output, it's a huge chunk of like a huge body of work. And although as I always am very happy to point out, in the beginning was the word, and without the word you got jack shit. So if it wasn't for the fact that you were so incredibly prolific and consistently so, and coming up with all these wonderful stories and characters, I wouldn't have that body of work under my belt. But it's I tend not to think of it in terms of the finished hour. And this is because I realized I started saying this, and it's going to sound incredibly whiny, but I think of everything that goes into it. You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah, it takes like sort of 3 or 4 hours to do a completed hour, basically, or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's usually the
and that's that turnaround has kind of come down a little bit from certainly the first books I would have done with you. They were, where, for instance, there was a lot more back and forth about what Bridget sounded like, for instance. And
that's right. I was thinking about this today. We spent a lot of time talking about What We Want Heard and the sort of Bunny and weirdly on the first couple of books we probably discussed characters. Where, to be honest, on the last few, I think there's been almost nothing we've kind of given you. As we've just sort of let you. We've just thrown.
I was describing the process to my my son-in-law. Asked me a couple of years ago, about a year ago, what's it like doing the audiobooks? And like you must spend a long time on the phone to each other or on Zoom. And I said at that stage, well, no, I mean, we kind of mail each other a bit. And he said, oh, right, yeah, so it's like Elton and Bernie.
Yeah, it's very Elton and Bernie. That's very much what it is.
I'm not sure which one I am, but I don't throw tantrums. But it's but it's just in terms of because it's great fun getting stuck into reading and doing the like for I mean, look, ultimately I started out as a stand-up. Now I'm an actor, and you understand the whole performance junkie aspect of being on and doing stuff. And for a performance junkie, getting the opportunity to be every single person in the show, plus the stage directions and the paint and the credits and everything, it's very seductive, and it's great fun, just to get stuck into doing all of those characters. But I mean, certainly in terms of the amount of time, it has come down a little bit over the years, because I think I was saying it to you earlier, I kind of pulled Bunny on like an old coat.
Yeah, it's like when I'm writing them, sort of, because I don't know if I told you this before, but at this point, I hear quite a few of the characters. I hear the voices you do in my head when I'm writing them now. It's like a loop where I wrote them, you said them, and now I hear them back as you, and it sort of goes around like that. It's mad.
Bizarre kind of an echo chamber, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, this is the classic. Yeah. Well, this is becoming dangerously close to Lovey now, but okay. Well, let me just ask a few of the questions we got. We've been. Who is your favorite character of all the characters in the books?
Hands down, I know this might be controversial, but Smithy.
Yeah.
I love Smithy. I actually, probably because of a lot of what I was saying before, that whole thing of being able to play everybody without, I mean, like in real life as an actor, because of my size and my age and my ethnicity, various things, obviously I'm going to be shoehorned into certain roles, which is great. That's just the way it works. But in this world, I get to be everybody. So it's and so as a performer of a certain height, age, etc., it often occurs to me when I'm reading Smithy, like, Smithy should just do this. Nobody cares what height you are, what age you are. That's so it's really lovely. So I love Smithy. I love Ferguson.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's the one that's probably the ones that are most fun for me to write are the ones that are most fun for you to speak, probably, because Ferguson's great, where he can just be, he can sort of be quite tender and then be horrible to somebody and then sort of bollock somebody, and it's
and they're very cathartic characters for me to do. Bunny is very cathartic because you can't record that guy with a hangover.
Yeah,
like you couldn't do Ferguson with a hangover either, because they're very big and bombastic. But the like in real life, you know, if a spotlight thing came in to the agent and said, you know, a character description for Gareth Ferguson, as an actor, I'd be going, I'm all over that. I love that guy. But my agent would be going, yeah, but look, I mean, he's a cop. He's 6'3". He's enormous. You know, so I that's where I'm in a Smithy position going, damn it, people don't care. You know?
Exactly. I don't know if this is true. I just came up with it, but I said, I think Smithy at one point says, at no point in any of Shakespeare's plays does he specify the height of any character. Now, to be fair, I've not read that many Shakespeare plays, so maybe he does, but it seemed like it made sense. And it's certainly,
to me, I've only read a couple of them. And again, it's strictly on a pay basis. I'm not really the kind of person who picks up the Bard for fun.
Because you did Hamlet, didn't you? You were in a. I was looking at your CV earlier on. You've been in Hamlet.
I was Hamlet. I was Hamlet's father, who was old Hamlet, who's the ghost, and Claudius, his brother who killed him. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. If you're looking for a happy, fun time, Hamlet's not the story for you. Brilliant. Because we should say, because obviously basically kind of why we got you for because we tried loads of people out, including me. You know, I'm sure we've discussed it before, but you know, I was going to do them at one point.
Yeah, I remember when we were first talking. Yeah,
I bought myself a little booth thing and everything, and I was trying to do them, and I kind of I did like a load of thing with a voice coach, which is actually really useful. As much to understand narration. I probably have a better understanding than most authors would of narration now, just because I've done the thing with it. But we got your sample because you were basically be amazed how many. The biggest single thing wasn't the voices, actually, the people, is that you intrinsically understood a funny line and you knew where the emphasis would be and you knew where the timing would be. And I can remember your first sample was just sort of, you just hit the lines where you'd be amazed how many people did it too fast or just kill the line. And it's one of these things where until you'd even realized it and you start listening to a load of them, that you wouldn't realize the difference and how the art of the narrator from it, which was
but again, and without at risk of sounding like this is turning into a mutual appreciation society, in over 35 years of being in this business, a huge amount of it in and around voice booths and narration, and it is really, really, really hard.
You can hear me pouring a drink, which is very unprofessional. Sorry, keep going.
That's okay. I like sound effects.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to time and perform poorly written scripts or copy or whatever. But your stuff is like to me, I would defy anybody not to read it properly because it's written properly. It has a beat into it that it seems to make sense to me anyway. So
well, thank you very much. But I think if we ever dig out the files, I probably shouldn't send them to you. But you quickly realize that some people can get that way wrong. Speaking just a general thing, because we had Brendan on last month. You know, you're talking because yourself and Brendan know each other and stuff, and we were asking him the weirdest things he's ever had to narrate and stuff. Which was I don't know if I didn't tell you this bit, but you know he's had to because he's done some stuff for phone companies, so he's had to sit on hold while he has told him that his call is important to him. Like he's had to listen to himself do that. What's the weirdest thing you've ever had to do? Have you ever had to do something like that odd?
No, I've done a lot of stuff, I used to do a huge amount of commercials in this country and various characters on radio stations and stuff. And I've never had that thing where I've confronted myself as a message on hold because it's simply an area I haven't really done very much of. But I've had awful times in my life where I might be getting a taxi and I'm very upset about one thing or another, and I'll say to the taxi driver, Fibsborough, please, or Dunabate, please, and they go, "Oh, you're that fella that does whatever on the ad," and they're giving it all. Do the funny line. And you go, no, I'm actually just okay. And you're trying to do the funny line, and you go, please just let me out of the car. So that's the closest I've had to that. I mean, in terms of strange stuff, animation tends to be where there's the point in my life, in my professional life, where I feel like telephoning the tax man and saying, come in, take a look at what I'm doing. And genuinely, do you think it's healthy charging somebody who does this tax? Because I clearly need help. You know, so like there's a cartoon series I did recently where I'm some kind of a magical martial arts rodent. And I was doing, I think we were on season 2 of that, recording huge amounts in advance. And I realized, oh, I thought he was a rat and he was a hamster. And
you've been playing him as a rat all this time.
Yeah. And it did change things for me slightly.
Right.
But, well, particularly when I said to the director, hang on a second, I'm a hamster. And he went, didn't you read the script? And I went, yeah, of course I did. But I haven't been taken seriously ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, up until that point. Because I was saying about doing weird acting things. I remember my friend Claire did an amazing story. She was a stand-up, she's now a playwright, but she did theatre in college. And she's at one point, her parents came to see a theatre, like a production they did in college. And she said at one point, I think she was in like leather bondage gear, being ridden round the stage by another woman like she was a horse. And she just looked up and managed to catch her own father's eye. And just that sort of look of him going, oh, I'm paying a lot for this.
Yeah.
So have you ever
choices?
Yeah, because that must be the weird. I've had that with the worst ever gig or the weirdest ever thing you've done on stage or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you? What's you must have a horror story. What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you on stage? You must, because you've done quite a bit of theatre as well, haven't you?
I've done bits and pieces. The worst stuff is usually other performers deliberately trying to corpse you. And there was and it's when you expect to be corpsed, but it's when it actually cuts you and you have that thing where you're supposed to be giving a line and you're going, and in your head you're going, this is taking far too long, but if I speak I'm going to break the moment and I'm going to piss myself laughing. So actually Hamlet, there was a point where Gemma Caimh was playing various parts in the show, and at one point she's the messenger that comes in when Claudius is dancing up and down going, when he comes back we'll do this, and I'll leave a poisoned wine over here and you have the pincushion and stab him and whatnot, and it's all plotting and planning. And Gemma had to come in and go, my lord, and I go, what is it? And she goes, a message from Hamlet. From who? From Hamlet. From Hamlet. And I would open it up on stage, and she let that bit go for ages and ages. And after, I think about 2 weeks, she said, a message from who? From Hamlet. And I opened it up, and it was the message that was all written as usual, because in case anybody saw it. But she put a big lipstick print at the end, and I just saw it, and I felt like I was staring at that piece of paper, trying to feign apoplexy for far too long. And I said to somebody afterwards, I said, how long did it take me to speak? They said about 3 minutes.
Oh,
which is it's like a feature film.
I was going to say, because normally you think it's a lot longer in your head. You go, no, it really was that long.
Just 3 minutes, because I was biting the inside off my face. So stuff like that. But I've never had a really bad time on stage because of coming up through stand-up.
Yeah,
as an actor, that's a huge. I mean, you know yourself how tough it is to, face down bear pit nights and rooms full of drunks and that thing where sometimes it used to happen to me quite a lot, going, what day is it, what night is it, oh Christ, where am I, what was I talking about, and that thing freezing, and worse when you're dying or people are heckling or Mullingar, where they would actually throw stuff. That was the only place I ever played in Ireland that had chicken wire in front of the stage, like the Blues Brothers.
Like the Blues Brothers, exactly.
Yeah.
God, I remember that. I have had. I did have some. I can remember weirdly we talk about sort of corpse. I had a weird thing where I got booked for the whole month of December to do Christmas shows in the same venue, which sounded like a great idea. You just went to Sheffield and you're back every night, and from Manchester it wasn't too bad, and it didn't, it was kind of. But the weird thing about it was, which we all sort of realized, was you're in the same room every night, like the same configuration, even the same balloons, and people are sitting around and all these tables and stuff. And I had it one night where 2 minutes in, I just sort of paused and my brain went, you've said everything. Because it couldn't distinguish between what was last night and what was now. And my brain, literally I went, you've said everything. And I had this sort of weird pause. And in my head, I thought it was like a minute where I was going, and apparently one of the guys, the sound guy said, "Oh no, it just looked like you were breathing in because I speak so fast." Yeah, but in my own head, it was like I've never said a funny thing in my life. I've said everything I could have ever said to these people already.
It's like Matrix time, bullet time. It's like, oh, I had a terrible year when I was doing stand-up years ago. I absentmindedly dropped some acid just before going on. And about 30 minutes in, I got fixated on the lights. I only know this because I have a videotape of it. I'm staring at the light for ages, and you can hear the laughter starting, and then it gets uncomfortable. And then that thing again was going, maybe he's brilliant. And they started laughing again. And then I look up and I go, I'm sorry, I'm coming up. And I got a really big laugh. And that's, had I not been off my clogs, I would have gone, that's the time to leave.
Yeah,
but no, I stayed there with imaginary butterflies for a while. So that was uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can imagine for everybody.
I've learned though.
Yeah. Oh, I should. Sorry, because I've been still busy chatting. We should go. Right, we'll do a speed round. Here's all the, because you got loads of questions that have come through. So, who's the hardest voice to do? Good question.
A lot of the women I find, because it's, you know, you may not have noticed, but I'm a man in his 50s, which
I don't see gender.
Thanks for not judging. But so I they're the ones that that's where, as it simply purely technically, or if there's stuff where you might have two female characters talking to each other.
Yeah, you got to make sure.
I'm making a lot of production decisions in my head when I'm reading that and making notes up, that kind of thing.
Oh, well, that actually leads to the next question. How do you keep all the voices straight? Because I can remember when I started trying to do it, I could do a voice, but then if two characters were talking, they just end up merging into one another. So how do you keep them all straight in your head? And
well, thankfully, if I ever have to check, I can go back and I have them all somewhere. I've really organized friends who go, oh yeah, you should have a file marked Bunny and a file marked Bridget and a file. Yeah, I want to live in your universe.
Yeah.
I go, what's the book for? Jesus Christ, and I'm trawling through and I go, oh, that's the voice. But a lot of the time I can remember the voices because I had fun doing them or coming up with what I thought that person might sound like, or on the couple of occasions where you've come back and gone, that's not the way I heard it or whatever. I think Dorothy was like that.
Yeah, because that is a Ghanaian woman based on. Weirdly, by the way, I've done this twice. I did the Brendan in the Stranger Times, where I've done an older Ghanaian woman, both kind of loosely based on my mother-in-law, and it is the hardest accent to give an Irish bloke to do. Be a woman from Africa and get the right part, especially because obviously we know enough to know, because you will get some actors will just go generic African, where you think that's like hundreds of millions of people. So it is quite challenging. Although to be fair, we're talking about every book. Weirdly, I think I've come up with some kind of challenge for you, whether it's giving you a kid to, a Hispanic lad with a stutter. I think we were talking earlier on. I think, to be fair, the worst thing I've actually given you in hindsight is an entire barbershop quartet.
Barbershop quartet, that was a head fuck, yeah.
It was even when we talked about it afterwards, it was like, until I'd heard you do it, it was like, oh, Jesus, I never even thought I should have. God, how on earth I've got four people singing in harmony. It's like, and you had to find some way of representing that without overdubbing it four times.
It was well, because there is also that. I mean, it's the weird thing. Obviously, wearing my other hat as a radio producer, I would love to just go, well, let's layer it, let's do that, but you're not allowed to do that in audiobooks, because there's kind of the unwritten rules. You stick to the text. But that thing of having all the voices, knowing the voices, and keeping them consistent, an awful lot of that is, I mean, it's what I do. I'm used to being a voice actor. From a very young age, I used to read to my older siblings sometimes. And then now my kids are all adults now, but with 6 kids, you'll appreciate that's an awful lot of bedtime stories and an awful lot of critics, because kids are terrible. That's not what he sounded like last night. Fucking
God,
radio
6 kids.
producers everywhere.
Yeah, God, 6 kids. That's a lot of criticism because that's
Yeah.
one thing kids produce a lot of criticism. Other questions. Annika from Sweden. Most narrators of audiobooks, if they are any good, have 10 to 15 different voices that they reuse for someone new, for previous characters not in the current book. Oh, I see what you mean, reusing the voices. But you do this amazing thing of inventing new voices for every single character. It must mean some serious prep work and color coding. What's your approach?
I have no real, as I say, I wish I had color coding, and I wish I was that organized. A lot of it is relying on memory, but a lot of it is again down to the writing. You write all the characters differently, and right down to I mean, sometimes there's people that you'll describe that might only have a couple of lines in the book, but they're so well written to me that I'm in my head going, oh, that sounds like that bastard who taught me physics when I was 14, or oh, that's that guy I saw on the telly. I mean, I recycle a certain amount of old voices from my very early days as a political satirist and impressionist. So there's some there's some politicians' voices that I mean I kind of use, or I have them in my head, like one of the voices in this latest book in Firewater Blues. Without giving spoilers, I won't say who he is, but he's very much modeled on the former head of the Progressive Democrats, Des O'Malley.
I was just going to say that Des O'Malley.
Yeah, so
God,
I think I did Charlie Haughey as one character. If I haven't yet, he will be coming up, because I played Haughey actually in a really brilliant stage play.
I saw that. I was looking at your CV again because there was all these things I didn't realize about you, that you played. It was like, is it Haughey? What was it called?
Haughey Gregory. It was about the deal that Haughey did. Haughey, for those of you not in the know, he's like our Berlusconi.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the best. That's the very best thing. Yeah, former Taoiseach of Ireland.
And he did a deal with this absolutely down to earth, heart of the realm, city centre Dublin socialist. And it was a historic deal. It was a kingmaker deal, but it was an incredible time in our political history. But it was great for me playing that character, playing Haughey, because when I started out, when I was a kid, I was in my early 20s, I was working on a satire show called Nighthawks on RTE television.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Which was the show that brought Charlie Haughey's career to an end. And when Haughey was giving his last interview, and we'd already, hold him below the waterline, I was on my way in to do sketches about him in RTE, and I was on my way into makeup, and he was on his way out of makeup, on his way to basically give his swan song speech, nothing to see over here kind of thing. And I bumped into him, and he was surrounded by all his bodyguards and stuff. And I said, Taoiseach, sorry, Taoiseach, I have to stop you there. I just want to say, I know you're going through a lot of hard times at the moment, but on behalf of myself and my colleagues, I'd like to thank you, because you've created our whole industry. And he went, oh, really? Ah. I said, yeah, we're comedians, and without you, we'd be fucked. And there was this horrible pregnant moment, and I was standing there, 23 or 24, going, my voice in my head going, oh, you're going to be found in a quarry. Yeah. Because he had this look of, don't fuck with me. And he looked at me, and he held it, and he held it, and he held it, and then he went, very good, yeah, very good, yeah. And he walked away.
Wow.
And then to play him as a serious character, having taken the piss out of him, because when I was taking the piss out of him, he was only vaguely aware of these gnats around him,
Yeah.
And I was a gnat, and I still am, but no, it was quite weird playing that, so that kind of thing. But anyway, I digress. Haughey, if I haven't used him already, he will be in there somewhere.
Oh, fantastic!
That's where I get a lot of the voices. Just relatives, people that I was in school with, that kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, no, it's amazing. It's because I writing, I use different bits of people I remember and stuff, and there is probably different politicians stuff. Weirdly, because you said Gregory is it isn't based on him, but in the The Day That Never Comes, there's a TD that's in it that's being blackmailed. That Bunny finds out he's being blackmailed. There's a scene, if anyone remembers, there's a scene in a pub with him, and he's basically Bunny's found out he's being blackmailed. The idea was, and obviously this isn't based on Gregory, but he was like a Gregory character. That he was basically this firebrand who protected his own people, and was even everybody respected Gregory because he was the guy who sort of stayed in there and fought for his own people till the end. And it was sort of based on him. It's an interesting thing, yeah. So it's amazing that these things kind of clash or come up again. Or run out of time. I should. Where's the some next prize should be Morgan recording a personalized voicemail answering message. I bet you must have done that for somebody before, have you?
Yeah, it tends to be one of those. If I ever say to a friend or family member, "Oh, I recorded something for you," they go, "Yeah, garage was shut on my birthday, was it?"
Yeah. We should, although you doing a bunny message, because there was one of the questions someone said about when you create them. You sort of said this, but when you create voices of characters, what inspires you? What inspired you to give Bunny the voice he did, for example, because you capture his energy so perfectly?
Well, again, it's in the writing. The Bunny is there because that's how he's written.
I think, because I genuinely think from the first sample, I think, because remember we discussed Bridget and stuff, but Bunny was you just had it straight away. I don't think we ever changed a single thing, as far as I can remember.
No. Yeah. I think we've had to. There was a direction or a note, a few books in, slow down for our listeners on the other side of the Atlantic, which is absolutely fine. I get that.
Yeah, no, that's true. That was probably. I think remember that we got a couple of people saying we love it, but they can. Which I guess it is one of those things with accents that people can lose it a little bit at times. Is there any other questions that I haven't covered? By the way, let me just check Wonder Wife before we go in. Let me just think, because it's been. Because you don't do stand up anymore, do you? Have you officially retired?
I quit doing solo stand up just after my youngest daughter was born in 2001. And I sporadically do a double act with Dermot Carmody, called Carmody and Jones. But we're, that's more two gentlemen of a certain age bonding over guitars and a pint and not rehearsing.
So I just dropping acid and staring at lights for half an hour.
Yeah, I've kind of moved so far away from that into a lot of. I love stage work, but I really love filming because it's very technical, and you really only have to do it once, which speaks to my inner lazy me.
Yeah, I could imagine. By the way, we have had a request that people have said, which is you have to say something as Bunny before you go. You can't not do Bunny.
I was looking out the window today at the pack of American tourists waiting at the bus to go into the parade on the wrong side of the fucking road, mind. They were going to a parade in the airport and they were wearing kilts. Is it St. Andrew's Day?
Brilliant.
That's true.
Yeah, I can well believe it. They are St. Paddy's Day things are such a weird thing. So what's coming up next for you? Because you got Harry Morgan's coming out, or Harry Wild, sorry, is coming out.
Harry Wild is coming out on Acorn Television in the next couple of weeks.
Because that looks. I mean, what was that like to do? Because it looks. It's weird that way. Because I was thinking this today, where a trailer for a movie can lie to you, where you go, this looks good, but weirdly for TV series. Because I think TV series rely on kind of liking the characters and charm as much more than films do. And I can remember watching it and just thinking instantly going, this does feel like it has a fun vibe to it.
I was really surprised. I saw it. I saw episode 1 last weekend at a cast and crew screening. It's a really terrific cast. It works as a crime procedural, and it is really genuinely funny. And doing film or television for me is the opposite of doing an audiobook, in that when I'm doing film or television, I do that Elizabeth Taylor thing. I only read the bits I'm in. Unless somebody says specifically you have to read the whole thing. And sometimes they do that when you're going for an audition. They go, you've got to do an audition, but you have to read the whole script as well as the 2 pages that your character is going to be on if you get it. And I was thinking, oh God, I better read it in case there's a fucking test. And the last time that happened was this Wild Mountain Thyme, that recently panned diddly-oidle Irish movie.
The one where all the Irish accents seem to be bad, including the guy that was weirdly from Ireland. I think that
including
was the thing
Jamie
that really
Jordan,
yeah.
And
was he a good actor?
But I went to that audition, and it was one of those read the whole script, and I read the whole script, and I completely blew the audition when the casting director asked me on camera, so what do you think of the script? And I said, it's not a script, it's a fucking hate crime with staples in it. And oddly enough, didn't get that gig. But anyway, not having read the whole thing of Harry Wilde, when I saw it, I was really and Paul Tylak, who you probably know Paul.
Yes, that's the guy. Yeah.
And does a lot of voice work, a lot of acting as well. And we were sitting beside each other. He's in it as well. He's really funny in it. And we were both saying, because neither of us read the whole thing, it was like, geez, I wasn't expecting that. So I think it's a lot of fun. And Jane Seymour is just an absolute wonder to work with. She's
cool.
Genuinely a really, really lovely person, and has a real sense of wanting to make something that I think probably from a business viewpoint, she wants some of that Angela Lansbury Miss Marple dollar, but it's the character is so engaging because she's like a very 21st century Miss Marple. Hard drinking, hard shagging, hard smoking, doesn't give a damn, and she's really engaging character. So I think it's I think it'll be one to watch, and hopefully should be coming back for a second season.
Yeah. I mean, it looks really good. Genuinely, I was really excited because I did say you've also. I'm supposed to be wrapping it up, but you also got to be a vampire in a horror movie, which I might break my rule. Actually, I was thinking this, and I might have to watch that because it does look so good.
What did you watch? Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, I did watch Shaun of the Dead. I love Shaun of the Dead.
It's in that kind of area that it's again an engaging and very funny film that just happens to be set in a world where blood-sucking creatures will kill you.
Yeah, because it's the boys from County Hell, isn't that right? Or
Boys from County Hell, and that was a great one for me because they hired me because the character I play is about 65. And broken down town drunk, like every small town everywhere has one. Yeah. And then he, it's in the trailer. There's no spoiler.
Vampire,
he ends up getting bitten, and he becomes one of the kind of transitioning vampires. And they hired me because they wanted somebody who was almost fucked enough to be the right age, but was almost fit enough to not require a huge amount of wires and training for when he becomes superhuman. And so that was a lot of fun. And
I imagine it is. It looks like it'd be good. I definitely will. I'm gonna check that out very soon. Well, listen, it's been absolutely brilliant, but I can't believe it took it this long to do this. This has been ridiculous. We have to do this again much sooner, and we have to see you again next time in Dublin. We still keep talking about going for a pint, which we haven't managed to, which is well overdue.
Well,
we did go to Beauty's
or anything from and we can, or really long straws. We'll be able to actually meet in a bar. That would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. We should get you and Brendan. We'll have the voices of everything I've ever written. We'll have you all together. Just me sitting there and I want you to do a conversation where Bancroft talks to Bunny, and then we'll just get you to do various characters to each other all night. Me sitting there,
monkey, dance.
Yeah, most annoying prick you've ever been for a drink with. Right, do that, and then you do that, and then you tell him this, and you tell him that.
I like that. Yeah,
brilliant. Well, listen, it's been absolutely delightful. Thank you very much, Morgan. You've been. I mean, again, you can't hear this, but right now, several hundred people around the world are clapping. And it's been. I mean, I'm gonna look. I mean, look. I'm gonna do it now. You have been absolutely superb. I know Irish people don't take praise well. I've always explained this to people. We really don't. I've had TV meetings where when the things are being optioned, and British people just go, "Oh, you liked it," and then they tell you what they're going to do with it. Americans spent 15 minutes telling you how good it is. And I literally had one in a hotel room in Florida where this lovely woman spent 15 minutes telling me how much she liked my book. And by the end of it, I'm not kidding, I was in a ball going, please stop. Yeah. This is torture. It was on the phone, by the way. I wasn't in a I should put
Yeah,
that.
but if that happens to me, I'm immediately going. They're building up for the but.
Yeah, just please stop.
Yeah.
One quick last question. That's someone's asking: is Ferry from The Charming Man based on the comedian Mick Ferry? It is. Yes, I had to clear it with him in case he got upset about it, but that doesn't involve Morgan. Morgan, thank you very much, sir. You've been an absolute delight. Thank you for all your wonderful work. The reviews have been fantastic, and I look forward to working with you for many, many more years.
Me too, Bernie.
All right, cheers, buddy. Take care of yourself.
Cheers. Bye, all.
That was Morgan C. Jones. What a delight. I genuinely would do that thing where I get both sides of the guys in the same thing and make them do conversations. That would be such an awful thing to make them do. But yes, as Glenn Potter is the charming man, the Ferry, there is a character who's genuinely based on the comedian Mick Ferry. There's also the guy with him is a guy called Rob Riley, who's a comedian / promoter in the Northwest. And I did actually ask them because I made them gangsters. I had to ask them because it's a bit rude otherwise. I believe, Wonderwife, do you want to pop back on? I believe you have gone through the emails.
I have indeed. I can't believe I did it in the allocated time. Woo, go me.
So do we have a winner for the
my psychedelic wheel? Unfortunately, I haven't worked out how to share my screen. I probably could, but no, I'm going to do it.
Oh, she's got this. You wouldn't believe this. She could just pick a name at random, but my wife is so exact, ladies and gentlemen, that she basically goes, "No, I have to make sure everyone's thing is in, and I have to make sure that the thing spins, and if somebody gets picked at random, you would not believe the amount of effort she will go through for this." Oh my God, she's figured it out.
It's there. It's probably not large enough for everyone to see, but I'm going to press a button.
Okay, we can actually see it. Oh my God.
And the winner is John.
Oh no! Oh God!
Willow.
That was particularly cruel on John O'Brien. I feel bad for. Okay, I'm going to make a ruling because I've had a nice night. I've had a Paddy's Day. It's gone quite well. Both those people will get a signed book because that just seemed mean. So this is why we don't show people the wheel.
Technology at its finest. Pat and John, if you could send me your addresses, I'll get that all sorted for you.
Yeah, I mean, I pointed, I do have to write that book first, but so don't expect it in the next week. That's all I'm saying. I have to finish that book, then I've got to start writing the other thing. But ladies and gentlemen, I've not been keeping up with the comments because I was focusing on the questions and stuff. But Andy, don't push it. Come on now, Andy. You can't give everyone. It's random, Andy. Let's not get dull. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that. Morgan is a delight. Genuinely fascinating to hear him talk about his process and stuff like that. And it's weird. I do honestly hear him when I hear the characters now. It's an amazing thing because I'm so used to him doing them. So thank God. I mean, we've been blessed. Anyone who's a fan of the audiobooks know. I mean, Morgan has been incredibly good for so long, and Brendan is different, but equally good in his own way, sort of thing. It's just amazing. We have two great guys doing them, and we feel truly blessed. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We've gone quite a bit longer because we just had so much chat to do. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're enjoying the book. Thank you as always for the support. Bump review if you get a chance. And I think that's it. Other than to say thank you very much. Have a wonderful life. God, that's supposed to be said a bit. I know, yeah. I've never known how to end these things. Have a wonderful.
St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
I'm going to give 2 minutes. I'm going to do because Brendan talked about corpsing. I'm going to tell you my corpsing in a non-performance environment. I was once in a team meeting with 20 guys in IT in Dublin. I haven't told this story before, Elaine, have I? The story about the. I was working in IT at the time. It was like 20 of us, 2 women on the team because IT you generally get mostly men. We're all sitting around the thing. This lady from London came over and she was talking to my boss at the time. And we had the worst thing where basically she meant to say, Lorcan, how many of the guys can you send on a training course at one time? Instead, she said, Lorcan, bit of warning, this is a bit rude, but Lorcan, how many of the guys could you pull off at one time? And what I remember about that is extraordinary. We were sitting in a circle and all of us were supposed to be on our best behavior. And we all just stared at a piece of piece of furniture, a piece of carpet, terrified to look at each other. And I can remember my boss literally just went, raised an eyebrow at one of the other guys. They all burst out laughing. The whole room went. I mean, the whole room went. Literally people falling off chairs, dying laughing. And the worst thing about it was this poor woman had no idea why we were laughing. And she looked to my overall boss, Laurie, to go, you said a thing that I'll have to tell you later. And that was the worst corpsing thing I've ever had. So there you go. Didn't need to tell you that story, but we finished on it. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been brilliant as always. Thank you very much. Enjoy the book. Thank you to Morgan. Thank you to Wonder Wife. Thank you to you. Thank you to me. Thank you. Good night.